Alright, it's Barbie, bitch. Alright, I love these playlists. I suggest to hear them. They're really good. She actually puts on pretty good music. It's her subscribe to her. Alright, so what are we gonna talk about today? I wanna introduce this really interesting article that I read. And it talked about how the Tesla founder offered to pay to end world hunger $6.6 billion. And I thought that was amazing, and I thought, wow, what a nice Elon Musk to care about other people and not only himself. Because now when we think about humanity as a whole, there's lots of very greedy people who don't want to give a dime to anyone, or only give 5 million. If they're billionaires, they give millions, but they don't give billions. And I have very great admiration for this man, Elon Musk, because of that, because he is willing to give more than what people expect him to give. And I think we need more people like that in the world. And I think this is what makes the world a better place. And I was reading the article, and you can hear it. I'm going to put the link down below so you can read it. And it's very, very humbling, I'm sure, for the UN to work with him because he's so famous. And I hope maybe this video reaches to him and he can see how I believe it's a better way, how to approach the situation of ending world hunger in a different way, so that we can solve it finally, forever and ever. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to definitely talk about that today. So, my take on how to end world hunger for Elon Musk. So first, let's talk about what this topic is really about. Well, if we look at the messages from Dr. Ellie David, he posted on recently 2021, because it's October 30th, 2021. We're in 2022, but this was recent. This was very recent. And Elon Musk said, if the World Food Program can describe on this Twitter thread exactly how 6 billion will solve world hunger, I will sell Tesla stock right now and do it. So you can see how interested he is in ending this horrible, sad need for many people to eat because they go hungry. And I think this doesn't compare with my abusive stepfather's past, because he used to, in high school, he used to take food off my plate, but I could never imagine actually being in their place with these people, because that doesn't compare, because at least I ate something. There was something in my plate that he left, but he used to take it for himself. So it's like we lived in poverty, but not as poor as to look like this, to look bony. And they said that the 6.6 billion, the United Nations said that it could help 42 million vulnerable people survive in 2022, which is amazing. It's really amazing that that's happening right now, if he donated that much. But then I looked at everything. I investigated all this. And I think there's a plan of the United States nation's fallacy. Why? Because you need a lot of money to donate. They need a lot of money to keep this helping these poor people. And I think the fallacy, I'm going to explain what the fallacy is and why it's better not to invest the whole 6.6 billion in certain things, but in other things, so that you can prevent it in the future. And I think that the World Food Program's plan to solve world hunger for 1 year is beautiful. But what about the next years? And how much donors are we going to get? And as we look it said that it raised 8.4 billion in 2020, and I was like, whoa, this is gonna end world hunger then. And it's not, because we're gonna look at the math. So there's a fallacy in this. We're gonna talk about it. Facts on world hunger. Hunger is the cause of 45% of all children's deaths. That's really sad. 45% of their deaths. Each year, 3.1 million children die from hunger-related causes, which include diarrhea and malnutrition. Every 10 seconds, a child dies from hunger. That's so sad. That is so sad. If I was, and you know, something that makes me love Elon Musk is that he puts himself in the shoes of other people. Because if he didn't put himself in the shoes of other people, he wouldn't care about world hunger. And it's sort of amazing because a lot of people lack that. A lot of people lack the idea that putting myself in those shoes, in their shoes, how would it feel if I was born to a poor mother who was single or who was married but was really, really poor? Like, how would I like it if nobody cared about me and my hunger and my family's hunger? That is so sad, and I applaud the UN for caring about them. Really, I do. For that reason, I applaud them for caring about them. But let's see at the fallacy. There was these cookies that they said they combat hunger and promote the society's evolvement. But I don't know what you guys, but if I was really hungry and they only gave me cookies for nutritional content, I don't think their CEO of these cookies feeds their children cookies so that they can live better healthy lives. I don't think that he feeds them cookies. I think he feeds them eggs in the morning, toast, waffles with peanut butter and jelly, and at lunchtime meatballs with spaghetti or a side of chicken with lettuce. He does that, I'm sure. And at nighttime, probably some beans with cheese or mac and cheese, or something healthy but not cookies, not just cookies. So I don't think that a lot of people say cookies are the way to end world hunger, and I'm sorry, but if I was a poor woman with my children, I wouldn't want them to eat just cookies. Sorry, but no, that is not a way to end world hunger, and I'm here to say it. Why? Because you make them feel like worthless pieces of poop, because that's what they're feeding you, or rice only. And I looked at a trend in the supermarket, and they were saying how we can feed rice to these people and end world hunger. And I was like, you can't just live off rice. That's not right. And the same thing with cookies. You can't just live off cookies. Not even how much nutritional value they have. You just can't. That's not right. That's not right. That's not morally right. Alright, facts on world hunger. It takes $1. I did my research. It takes $1.25 a day. More than 1 billion people live on less than $1.25 a day, which totals $8.75 a week. This means that people in poverty can only spend $461 a year, whereas the average American spends $7,852 a year on food alone. Yes, it's true. This low amount of $1.25 a day could not even buy you 1 gallon of milk at the market price. Wow. So $1.25 a day. That's facts on world hunger. The total amount of people who are dying of hunger are 828 million people. And I thought, wow, that's not a lot. You know, we have 7 billion people in the world. 7 billion people in the world. And 828 million people is not compared to 7 billion. So I think we're doing pretty good. But still, those 828 million people are suffering. And we need to help them out. So the UN says that ending world hunger will cost $267 billion per year. That's outrageous. So we have a total of 828 million people. But it will cost you 267 billion per year to feed them. Oh, that's a lot. That is a lot. So I did the math. How many days in a year? 1 year equals 365 days. So $1.25 a day, I did 456.25 per year times 828 million people gives us 377,775,000,000 total needed per year. So this is my math to feed those 828 million people dying of hunger. And 160 per year times 828,000 people, because I saw another article that says no, it's not $1.25 a day. It's actually 160 a year to end world hunger. That was from the UN, from Reuters. And you can find that article over here. And it says the poorest need 160 a year to end hunger. The UN. This was a 3-minute read. And it said Thomson Reuters Foundation, just 160 per year for each person living in extreme poverty would eradicate world hunger by 2030. The United Nations said on Friday, recommending the money should be delivered through both cash transfers and pro-poor investments. Eliminating hunger is one of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, new objective set to replace the 8 expiring UN Millennium Development Goals. And it just talks about how if we adopt a business as usual approach by 2030, we would still have more than 650 million people suffering from hunger. So there's a lot of fallacies, because even if you try to end world hunger, you still have more people who are in need as the years pass. But I'm going to talk about the fallacy. And we're going to talk about my opinion on how to solve it for good. For good. Alright. So in the 2020, the UN's World Food Program, WFP, raised $8.4 billion in 2020. This is really shocking. We are, I can stress enough, 2022. I don't know how much they fundraised, but in 2020, the UN Food Program raised $8.4 billion. How come it didn't solve world hunger? Because of this. Because there are 828 million people who need their help. And if you say that every of those people feeds of $1.25 a day, that means that you need per year 377,775,000,000 per year to feed them if it costs $1.25 a day. But if you're talking about 160 a year to end hunger from the UN, then that's different. That's less. It's 132 billion. I repeat, 132 billion 480 million. I repeat, they only fundraised in 2020 $8.4 billion. Yikes. How are we gonna feed them if we have to feed them the lowest that they're saying 160 a year? Is gonna be 132 billion. How are we gonna get that much money? How? And they only raised 8.4 billion. So that's where the fallacy comes in. Because we need to look at different ways that we can stop this. Because we're constantly giving money for food. But how can we really stop this problem? And that's where the fallacy comes in. Because you can't end world hunger with 8.4 billion. if you need 132 billion. And the percentage of the population undernourished, as we see, the United States is well fed. Mexico is well fed, but to be honest, there's still some poor people in the street who, for example, I have seen poor beggars in the street just laying there in the hot sun asking for money. 5 people in my life, I've seen 5 people in my life who are really, really poor, and they smell bad. And they don't have a shower, they don't have access to, but the other people that beg on the cars, where you pass them by on the cars, they smell good. So they have a better life than people who are just in the street, not in the cars, asking for money in the cars, but in the street, and they smell bad. I've encountered 5 people like that. And it's sad because I saw one time that they were cleaning the streets with water so they can smell fresher, and there was this really poor man who had I think he hit his head because there was stuff coming out of it, and they were taking him hostage to prison or something because he was standing in a tourist area, and they were taking him to a prison. And I was like, what? This is not right. This is not right. They were taking him to a prison. So I just think that that's just messed up. They were taking him somewhere because the police grabbed him and he was taking him to the car, to his cop car. So, and then the most vulnerable are in Africa, as we can see, the red. Africa is where there's a lot of resources. So why would they have this much a population undernourished? Africa is where we have huge issues, and Asia too. Alright, I think these are really interesting. Facts on world hunger before I talk about my ways to solve it. There is more than enough food produced in the world to feed everyone on the planet. As many as 829 million people worldwide go to bed hungry each night. So they say that there's enough food produced in the world to feed everyone, but yet we have that go to bed hungry thing. And if current trends continue, the number of hungry people will reach 840 million by 2030. And right now, 840. And I believe 840. So right now it's 828. But by 2030, it will reach 840 million. 840 million. So right now, it's 828. That's a serious issue here. And I watched a video on Reuters about how these people don't have jobs in Africa. They don't have jobs. That's a huge issue too. But we're going to talk about why too. It starts government invest. So now I want to talk about how to actually stop it for good. This world hunger. And it starts, my huge belief, it starts with government investing in tourism and outsiders. Not only government, but people like Elon Musk. I think that investing in tourism, not in hotels, but in helping them create monuments, in helping them renovate historical places, in creating museums that will allow them, not hotels, creating these things instead of hotels, to create more tourism. In 2012, the tourism global economy accounted for more than 260 million jobs, equivalent to about 8.7% of the overall number of jobs, direct and indirect worldwide, or 1 in every 11 jobs. 1 in every 11 jobs. Hotels, catering, and tourism is a labor-intensive and employment-generating sector, especially for those with limited access to labor market. It can be significant for women, youth, migrant workers, and rural populations in developing or at least developed countries, LDCs, which is that, least developed countries. Tourism is increasingly recognized as a major source of economic growth, particularly in poor countries. So tourism is powerful. Tourism is powerful. Like in Mexico, Cancun, where you see those monuments that are the Mayans, the pyramids, that gives a lot of jobs. A lot of jobs, not only through hotels, but through catering and the actual tourism that you pay to enter these places. That is what creates jobs, and that is what creates economic money to invest and help the poor in your country by paying an entrance to these places to see them. So it's a very interesting approach that I think is better. Hold on. How to increase tourism? Highlight the main attractions. So instead of investing in feeding these people, create tourism. I think their tourism in where they live. Tourism, and because there's a lot of stories from stories like folk stories of history in every country in Africa. Different stories that could build monuments. For example, the Eiffel Tower makes billions in tourism, worth to be 435 euro billions, which is 545 billion. It's worth 545 billion to the French economy. This 1,050 feet tall monument built in 1889 is worth 545 billion to the French economy. Wow. That's how powerful monuments are. We have in the New York City, we have the Statue of Liberty, and a lot of people visit the Statue of Liberty too. So example, Russia, they could end their country's world hunger by creating unique monuments, buildings with colored glass, a building with different sized Russian dolls around the city, around their main city, and create this unique building with colored glass that looks like a Russian doll, but it's a building, and that would make people go there to visit. And that's something that I talked about to my advice to the Russian president. Instead of investing in war, invest in tourism, because that actually is the thing that makes lasting effect on the economy, not war. Lasting positive effect. So very good article that I found out that talks about this, how tourism, poverty reduction through tourism. This is International Labor Office. And again, it says what action is needed, and it talks about it, low skills and opportunities for disadvantaged groups, working conditions and social dialogue. It tells everything about tourism and how it can end poverty. And it has a total of 4 pages long. I'm going to attach this article down below so you can read it. And this is the 14 countries' marketing strategies to attract more tourists. Every country should read this. Every country should read this. This is an amazing article. I'm going to attach it down below so you can read it. A quick menu, focus on branding, seek partnerships with other people, engagement marketing, give visitors an immersive experience, how to use social media to promote your country, attract influencers, how we can attract influencers that have 1 million views, or PewDiePie, come to visit the Eiffel Tower. PewDiePie, come to visit. This is a YouTuber, a famous YouTuber. Come and visit the ruins of Egypt and go on an adventure. We'll do it for free. You can come for free. A lot of influencers that have 1 million or more viewers are a great way to advertise. Like, for example, I know that cosmetic companies do this. They do this with with YouTubers. And that's how Kylie from the Kardashian made a billion because she made a billion off of her cosmetics because she used social media and she used YouTubers who had a lot of viewers give their advice and their opinions on her products, on her lip products. So don't overlook social media. Do not overlook social media. Know your target audience and present it to those people. And this is what it talks about. Tourism trends, opportunities for the tourism industry, technology trends emerging in the travel and tourism industry. Every country needs to read this. Every leader needs to read this, and Elon Musk too. I suggest to read this because if you help them invest in their tourism, then they can attract more people and thus can create jobs and end the need for people to beg for food. Yes, I think that's the World Food Program is a food assistance branch of the United Nations. So it's part of the United Nations. Okay? It's part of the United Nations. So it's help them keep them in top maintenance. Like Africa, they have a lot of rich history. A lot of rich history. Like probably you can talk about slavery. How people stole kings, princesses sold them to slavery from these tribes. And you can talk about these tribes and their culture. So there's a lot of things that you can help them invest in monuments and in museums. And to help them keep them in top maintenance and work with these companies, these travel companies, to visit every of these local places in Africa, these different spots in Africa, visit them. So I think that it comes down to this. My solution: help with the maintenance of tourist hotspots. Elon Musk, this is what I suggest. Help with the maintenance of tourist hotspots and with building unique, worth visiting monuments that have meaning to their culture and stories, and create museums. As they say, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Like we're doing with the United Nations, we're feeding these people, which is not bad. It's good too. But we also have to focus on ending it. And a good way to end it is helping them with their tourism. Every place has a unique culture. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. This is what we're doing with tourism. Okay? This is what we're doing with tourism. Also, my solution: invest in Ivy League universities in poor countries, 1 in 11 in each. Investing in education makes people want to hire them because of their top education, thus reducing poverty. Make them have sororities and fraternities that fundraise against world hunger. And there you have it. Those are my solutions. And I put this quote because I think it involves this quote. And I think Elon Musk should use that money to help to open Ivy League universities in these poor nations. And not only that, but help them in these Ivy Leagues with their students' dreams. Invest in them. Hear their plans and invest in their dreams. In these Ivy Leagues. Because I always say, if Harvard would have invested in Mark Zuckerberg's idea of Facebook, they would be billionaires like him. Yes. Alright, so thank you very much. This is my presentation, and I really hope that Elon Musk can see this video. Thanks, and this is Ana Sofia. Bye.